Hello, everyone, and welcome to this podcast brought to you by Porter and Chester Institute. My name is Ann Baldwin, and it's always a pleasure to have Jim Bologa in the house. He's the president and CEO of Porter and Chester Institute, as well as YTI in Pennsylvania, which is YTI Career Institute. But we're really going to focus on PCI today because, Jim, it's been interesting to kind of follow along how this whole COVID thing has impacted your career school, and it really has kind of made some changes for the better in that you've really had to turn towards remote learning. So talk a little bit about that, what the blessing is and the problem. So what this really means is more opportunity for those folks who might be wanting to get into healthcare or the skilled trades.
Oh, absolutely, and it is, I think, an interesting time whereby we've had to take our education that we've historically delivered all on ground, both lecture and hands-on lab work in our industry modeled labs online. And so far we've transitioned the school in terms of the lecture and some of the project work online, and we're also hopeful that the schools will be able to reopen and we'll be able to take all the necessary safety precautions to open up our industry modeled labs on our campuses, as well as re-enter into clinical sites for some of the healthcare professions that we do educate folks in. Those clinical sites are now being asked to reopen for educational purposes. So we're excited about that, and again, we're hopeful in the near future that our students will be able to come back on campus. We'll be able to practice all the appropriate safety precautions in terms of social distancing and maybe masks and all those other things. But what I would say is that this coronavirus, I believe, is really going to change the approach that we take moving forward. Largely because we're not quite sure how long this is going to last, and I think all of us are going to have to deal with the changing environment. And so as we think about the future, I can certainly see us moving in a direction where lecture and project work and any simulations can all be done online, and then we'll have the students come into either the clinical sites that we've worked with in terms of getting their direct patient care experience, or coming back onto campus and doing their physical hands-on work, where they continue to develop and refine their tangible skills that are going to be necessary for them once they get out into the real world.
Right. So when you talk about clinicals, for those folks who are listening, that means you're actually in a dental office, you're in a doctor's office, you might be in a hospital, you might be in a nursing home. So all those things, as you mentioned, will be reopening so that these folks can continue their education. But one thing that hasn't changed because of COVID-19 is the fact that people in the healthcare industry and people in the skilled trades have not stopped working for the most part. So there's the constant, right? So you're out there saying, what should I advise my kid or my student to do for the rest of their life? Or what do I, as somebody who might have been downsized or lost my job, now what? For many of these programs, you're talking about maybe 21 months. I mean, it varies depending on the program, to have a real skill, to have a real career.
Right. Yeah. I mean, most of our programs during the early part of the day are going to be between 9 and 15 months in length. In the evening, they will range probably from about 14 months to maybe 20, 21, 22 months in length. So it's a relatively short period of time in the context of higher education, if you will. And I would say, when you look at a lot of the governor's executive orders, in terms of how they're defining essential workers, you will see healthcare professionals. So again, programs, for us like, practical nursing, medical assisting, dental assisting, medical billing and coding. Those are folks that are vitally needed in the healthcare system right now to deal with the coronavirus. Again, you'll see in terms of skilled trades, you'll see in the governor's executive orders, you'll see professions like plumbers, electricians, HVAC technicians. You'll see electronics folks. You'll also see automotive mechanics or automotive technicians. You'll also see information technology people. And so again, many of the programs that I just meant, or the vocations I just mentioned, we actually have educational programs for. And to your point, I would encourage anyone out there, depending on maybe you're a high school senior and you're undecided right now in terms of what your future is, I would encourage you to go to porterchester.edu and check out our programs. And you might be a prospective student who might have already committed to another college but deciding to take a gap year. I would also encourage you to, maybe in that time, learn a skill.
Yeah, you got cosmetology there too now at the Rocky Hill campus.
Yeah, we do. We've actually had a few students, believe it or not, who that I've been made aware of who were actually going to go to college, or were in college, who are now taking quote a gap year, and they're coming to our school to become an automotive technician. There's another student who wants to become an electrician. Another student wants to become an HVAC tech. In the sense that they want to learn more about that. So I think it's a great opportunity because I think if you're a parent, and you've got a senior who's undecided or a senior who decides that they're not quite sure what they're going to do in the fall. In terms of pursuing traditional higher ed, this is a great opportunity for relatively short period of time to actually obtain and develop some really good skills that you could use as a fallback. And again, when you look at all the industries that have been impacted right now by the coronavirus, retail, hospitality, food and beverage. I mean, there's a lot of professions out there right now. I mean, just in the past several weeks, I mean, we're now up to I think 25, 30 million, almost 30 million people who have filed unemployment claims.
Right. And who knows what the future has in store as well.
Absolutely.
So it's a great thing, and it's very cost effective. I mean, you look at the skilled trades compared to colleges and universities. I mean, that speaks for itself. So this is great information, and we should also mention that everybody is very concerned about their safety and well-being, as they should be. You've got great information on your website, porterchester.edu, virtual tours, videos. You're also offering some educational webinars. Maybe somebody has some questions about financial aid opportunities and things. So there's no reason not to look into it. It's all there for you.
No, absolutely. I think depending on where you're at in your decision-making process, I would encourage all of the listeners to attend one of the informational webinars that we're currently starting to conduct. And in that informational webinar, what we'll do is give a sort of a broad just overview of the programs that we offer in terms of just general awareness, and then what we will most likely do is have a more specific programmatic program webinars, and we also have, like you had mentioned, virtual interview / tour, and that you can book those right on our website at porterchester.edu. And again, if you're further along in your decision-making process and you're ready to apply or enroll, you can actually go right online and fill out an electronic application, and we will begin taking you through that process in a very simple, straightforward, streamlined way to get you enrolled in the upcoming start, which is July 20th. And again, we're constantly working right now trying to make sort of the digital experience as seamless as possible for prospective students and their families and their other support members.
And it doesn't mean that, virtual learning does not mean that you don't get the hands-on. So like you said, there is the classroom things that can be done, at your convenience. So you can do it at the day, evenings. Some classes are offered at night. And then you actually go into the workforce. You go into the dental office. You go to work at an automotive dealership, fixing all kinds of things, which is so electronic these days that's a whole nother ball game. So you get that hands-on experience, and that's really what's key, and that's what a lot of folks are looking for, and that's what employers are looking for too. You can't learn what they know in a textbook these days.
No, correct. I mean, I think the way folks probably need to think about education and career and technical education moving forward, at least this is the way I'm thinking about it, is that you are going to spend time in lecture, and that's going to be online. and you'll be doing that, using some form of electronic device, whether it's a tablet or a Chromebook type device. But you'll spend time, your classroom time, if you will, your lecture time, some of your project time, some of your simulation time online, and then you'll be coming back to our campuses. For those programs that are going to be working in our industry modeled labs, you'll be coming back on campus to refine, those skills. So you'll have the theory online, and then you'll practically apply that theory in our industry modeled labs. And for those educational programs that require clinical site experience, you'll be going back out to those clinical sites and working, in that environment in a hands-on way, applying, the theory and the project work and the simulation and all the other things that you've done online in a real world hands-on way.
Right. So it's worth checking out. porterchester.edu for all the information. You can always reach somebody to walk you through any process that you need some help with. And really now's the time to rethink what the future looks like for a lot of us. So it's worth, like I said, checking it out. Well, thank you, Jim Bologa, President and CEO of Porter Chester Institute, and also YTI Career Institute in Pennsylvania and Massachusetts. Thank you so much for being here today, and we hope that you got some good useful information. We want to thank you for listening to this podcast brought to you by Porter and Chester Institute.